Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be doing my informative speech on nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is all forms of communication other than the words that we say. So these can be voice inflections, vocal qualities, as well as several other behaviors such as our body language, shrugs, blushing. Some can be controlled and some can't. Although nonverbal communication can sometimes be separated into very many categories. So a few of those categories we'll be going over and how they work together within this presentation. And nonverbal communication is also very important. This is the percentage of communication that is believed to be nonverbal depending on the scenario and the type of person. Some people use nonverbal communication more than others. So anywhere between 65 and 93%, which 93%, that only leaves 7% to the words we say. So that's extremely significant and is very important to remember that a majority of the things that we communicate to others aren't even the words that we say. So there's 10 different types of nonverbal communication. The first is kinetics, the second is haptics, then physical appearance, olfactics, artifacts, proxemics, environmental factors, chronemics, paralanguage, and silence. Kinetics is often referred to as body language, and it's the physical movements of our body, the different ways that we carry ourselves, such as me giving this speech. I can use my hands to convey the first type of nonverbal communication that we'll be going over. And just to talk through those, I can give facial expressions, eye contact, and different ways that I move my hands, my body, walking side to side, swaying. Any of these convey a message to my audience or whoever I'm conveying a message to. Haptics is physical contact as a means of communication. So there are many ways that physical touch can send a message. A few of these are things like giving somebody a hug or a pat on the back to congratulate a friend of an accomplishment. There's so many different ways. Violence is a way of communicating your anger to another person. So those all fit within the category of haptics. Physical appearance, this is the way that you appear to others. So for me, the first example that I thought of is, for this presentation, I wanted to portray that I cared, that I wanted to be viewed as professional within giving this presentation. So I chose to dress up more in a formal appearance. There's many examples to this, and it's all subject to the person receiving the message, just as any other form of communication is. So you may try to put on a physical appearance to send a message, but it's ultimately up to the recipient to decide what message they receive based upon your physical appearance. Then olfactics are based off of the olfactory nerve, which is the nerve within your brain that's responsible for smell. So this is the type of communication through smells. Every smell communicates something differently. Bad smells might communicate like something gross, or that you do not have good hygiene. But then others, like smells that bring a familiar history, like the smell of cinnamon rolls, might take you back to Christmas morning. Also, an important role of olfactics communication is the fact that all people secrete small amounts of hormones through the air known as pheromones, and these create unique smells that can increase and stimulate attraction from someone of the opposite sex. So it actually does influence like reproductive patterns and that sort of thing. So it's a very important part of communication for us as well. Next one is artifacts. Artifacts are items that have significant meaning to us beyond their physical characteristics. One example of this is jewelry. So I put a cross necklace on here because that is something that you can wear that might send a message to somebody else. It carries significant meaning to you beyond what you are trying to, beyond what it is ultimately. And that makes it more significant. Some of the others are bumper stickers. As you can see, this car here has a whole lot of bumper stickers, a lot of messages that they want to convey to their audience. And then I also have a pair of Nike shoes with rainbow stripe patterns. These are a pair of Nike shoes that were like a special edition for a gay pride event. And also Nike in recent years has been more of a symbol of racial injustice in the United States. So that is something that all carry a meaning that can convey a message to somebody that you're trying to communicate that to. Proximatics is your proximity to another person to convey a message. So if you're standing face to face with somebody very close, it could either be a positive thing, showing that you are comfortable with that person, to be very intimately close with them, or it could be negatively, also that you're in their personal space, in their bubble. You're maybe trying to be dominating of the conversation. So space can communicate many things. Often space is categorized into several different ranges, such as intimate space. This is when somebody is extremely close to you. Personal space is when you're having a conversation with a close friend or acquaintance. Social space is when socializing with others, such as like giving this presentation. I'm in a smaller room, so my audience is within my social space, but if I was giving this presentation into a large area, it would be more public, it would be more open. Or if you're speaking to somebody outside, that would be more of a public space. Anybody can come into the public space and not necessarily have any sort of nonverbal communication with them. Environmental factors. These are the ways that your surroundings influence the way in which we choose to communicate. So the example that I have is being in a library versus a sporting event. When you're in a library, you have to be very quiet, very calm. At a sporting event, it's the exact opposite. You're wanting to be as loud as possible to communicate to everyone around you that you're excited and passionate about your team winning. Chrononymics are the use of time to define interactions. Various cultures have different ways of describing time. Western cultures are very time-oriented. Being punctual is important to us. In other countries, especially in Central and South America, it's not as important. Paralanguage is the way you use your voice to inflect different tones. So for this speech, if I talked in the same exact tone for every word, it would be extremely boring. But using your voice to show energy or any form of emotion can help convey a message to your audience. Silence. Silence is a very important means of nonverbal communication. It can be used in many different ways. It can be used intentionally to show disapproval, or unintentionally to show, not to show awkwardness, but it can create awkwardness communicated between one another. And it was also used for suspense. So if you're wanting to announce something and they wait, and then that silence creates suspense. And then many of these work together. So the correlation between chronomics and environmental factors is that according to a study on the pace of life, it was found that cultures in warmer climates typically adhere to a slower pace of life, whereas cultures in more cold climates have to tend to be more fast-paced. Appearance and artifacts work together. So many artifacts not only carry the value to us, but are also used to communicate messages based on our appearance. Carrying a binder or a briefcase to an important interview can give you the feeling that you are conveying to your employer that this is important to you, that you are a professional. A cross necklace, like I used in my other, may have significant value to you as an artifact, but simultaneously change your appearance to someone else. So in conclusion, nonverbal communication is essential and effective communication. Many forms of nonverbal communication can be used simultaneously to enhance the message that is being conveyed verbally. Thank you.